everyone, and welcome back to the Travel Mug Podcast. This week, I'm super excited to bring on my friend Jamie. We grew up in the same town, and now she lives very far away. So she's going to tell us about her experience moving to the UK from Canada. So, welcome to the podcast, Jamie. I'm so excited to have you
Thank you for
here.
having me. I'm a huge fan, so I'm very excited.
Yay!
Yay.
So first, tell us like a little bit about yourselves, maybe your favorite travel destination that you've been to so far, and maybe somewhere that's on your list that you haven't made it to yet.
Okay, I'll give a brief little synopsis on my life. So, I was born and raised in Nova Scotia. I moved to Florida at 16 and finished high school in Orlando and moved back when I was 20 to Nova Scotia. And I started dating my now husband, and he was moving to England. And so I followed him as we did the working holiday visa and stayed here for 2 years and then went back to Nova Scotia and kind of rode out the pandemic. And now we're here. Yeah. My favorite travel destination is very hard, of course. It always is a tough question.
It
I
is.
have a couple honorable mentions that I have to say.
Yeah.
They're Paris and Split, Croatia.
Okay.
They're two places that we went to and we were like, we could live here. No. Those are the honorable mentions, but I think my favorite spot is Kotor, Montenegro. Blew me
Interesting.
away with the mountains. It's just such an underrated destination and it is beautiful. And somewhere I really want to go is the Positano in Italy. There's a few
Okay.
cities
Yeah.
in Italy, but
Mhm.
I've never been by the sea, and I just really want to see those beautiful buildings.
Yeah.
Just
The
so nice.
classic area.
Um, yeah, or California or something. Like I want to go everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, same. We have that problem too, and it's funny that you mentioned Montenegro because I was supposed to go there in 2020, and it's kind of how I ended up reconnecting with your husband because I went to high school with your husband, and, we were planning this trip, and you guys had just been there, and so I was chatting with him, and then all of a sudden it was pandemic, and then it was like, "Oh god, what is
Just
going on?"
been
Like,
yeah.
it's that. Someday I'll make it
Yeah,
there.
I recommend it. And going to Croatia and driving down, that's what we did. It was such a beautiful drive. Yeah, definitely recommend.
So I wanted to bring you on because so many people dream of moving abroad and have like no idea how it works. And we know like every situation is obviously really unique and it depends on where you live now and where you want to go. But I feel like it's the information is still helpful to people to like know where to start looking. So rewind back and tell us about your experience with the working holiday visa when you first went to the UK.
My experience with the working holiday visa was actually very seamless. And I don't know if I don't know if it's because being Canadian, we're a part of the Commonwealth. So I think that the whole purpose of it is to get people to go over there and just basically make money and spend money. And for us, it was very easy. So very thankful for that little connection to the motherland of England. Um, but you basically just fill out the application online and you need a certain amount of money in your bank account. I can't remember exactly how much it was back then. This was 2017. I'm sure it's more now, obviously, with the cost of living going up and everything.
Yeah.
And you have to go through an interview process as well. That was back when Halifax had interview slots every single day. They had an office in the Four Points downtown. So it was very easy
Okay.
to get an appointment. So basically, you fill out the application, go for your interview, and you find out a couple weeks later. I think I finished my process within 3 weeks for the working holiday visa.
Oh,
I actually found out that I got accepted when I was in a meeting with my boss. And I it's like we were having a one-on-one and I was looking at my computer typing and I got a notification being like, "Oh, you've been accepted. Congratulations." And I was just like, "Ah." Mean myself because at that point my husband had been here for about 9 months. So I was missing as well.
okay.
So I was excited.
So
Right.
did you have a job when you applied for the working holiday visa, or you were able to wait and get that once you got
So you
there?
can wait and get one once you get here. That's kind of purpose of them requiring you to have a certain amount of money in your bank account. They want to make sure that you can set
Okay.
yourself up and that you're not going to be, I guess, leaving right away. Or I don't think that you would qualify for council housing, but they just want to make sure you can sustain yourself, basically. Um, so neither
Right.
of us had any jobs lined up for the working holiday visa.
Okay, that
Oh,
makes sense. I think that's a helpful point for sure. So let's flash forward and bring us to the present. So, what was the first step to getting your current visa? So, sort of fill in the gap there in terms of that type of visa, or what type of visa do you have, and then go from there.
I'm actually here on a dependent partner visa. It's a very similar process. It's a bit more involved. Um, I was actually very concerned with it because I couldn't even find the application online. Like I was Googling um, dependent partner visa as you do. And a lot of the applications, or I should say all of them, are on the UK government website. But I couldn't find it for the life of me. They have family visa on there, which is if you're related to someone who is British. I had to
right.
look for it on YouTube. I looked up literally dependent partner, like wife, applying like word for word in the YouTube search bar. And I came across a video of a woman explaining it. And she had the link in her description. And I was like, I don't know how people found this. Because real low
Wow.
on the website. Um, and I needed a lot of information from Sean. I needed like the numbers for the license his company had. I needed copies of his visa. I needed a lot from him because I was dependent on him essentially for my visa.
Right.
Um, it was a lot more stressful, I will say, most
Yeah.
because the company that had the interviews in Halifax, I think that they switched ownership or they shut down and a new company has opened up because now Halifax has 2 interview days a month instead of every day. So they
Gross.
book up quickly to fly to
Wow.
Ottawa for my interview, um, which, was just inconvenient. I was like, I'll go to
Yeah.
Toronto or St. John's, like have a little vacay. I had never been to Ottawa, so I didn't really know what it had to offer. But Ottawa was the only place I could go for the interview. But it was actually a really nice trip. I went with my mom, had a little girls trip. It
Okay.
was really good. But this application was very similar. You needed a certain amount of money in your account. For us, that wasn't
Right.
the case specifically because his company kind of vouched for us and said that they would take care of us until I found a job. They didn't have to do that. Luckily, they said
Right.
they could do.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
well,
Yeah, that how long, though, did it take, for that and I'm laughing because I know you, but, like, tell the people how long it took versus your working holiday visa.
so this process, well, actually, no, it wasn't as long as I expected it. I started this process at the beginning of July, this past July,
Yeah.
2023, and I found out mid August, which it doesn't sound like a long time, but at the interview in Ottawa, I had paid for priority, which is a lot of
Right.
money. But I was just like, I need to get there. I miss my husband. I already gave the notice to my landlord. Like, I have nowhere to go. I need to get out of here. And I think that they guaranteed me to find out within a week or two. And I found out in 3 weeks. So that whole last week, I was like stressing. I didn't know what was going on.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that would be incredibly stressful. So, with that one, were you alerted by email? Like, how did you find out? And then, sort of, what was the process or steps from there? Or was it essentially, you've got your paperwork, let's go? Like, how did it work once you found out, sort of mid August?
So I actually got the email when I was at work. My shift had just ended and it was just me and 2 of my colleagues. And I looked at my phone because at this point I was checking my phone every 5 minutes. Like, good thing I didn't find out
Right.
I was working at a restaurant and I was going back like every time I could, like, hold on.
refreshing.
Okay. But I opened up the email and I basically just said, congratulations, you have your visa. And I have never cried that hard in my life. I'm not a
No.
crier. yeah, I keep my emotions inside, but I blubbered like a baby just because it's something we've wanted for so long.
Wow.
And it's just funny that you find out in an email. Like you see, you want like fireworks to go, kind of like when you see holiday and you have like the fireworks. Like I want that.
Yeah.
How much does your acceptance letter? Goodbye. And after I got, I went home. I was planning to book my flight right away, but you do have to wait for your passport to come to you. So when you go to the interview process, you provide all of your documents in hard copy. You also upload them on the website, and you have to send off your passport as well. They put
Mm.
the entry. It's a vignette essentially. It's not your actual visa, but it's just say that you're coming here to get your visa. It's fine. So I had to wait for my
Right.
passport to come back because I'm one of those people that I can't plan everything or anything until everything's in place. It's like I know I got my visa, but I can't book the flights until the passport is in my hands.
I need to be holding
Like
it. Yeah.
lost in the post or
I
like
get that.
something. So I waited until that got back, which was about 3 days later, and I booked my flight.
Right.
And then when I got here, they had my visa all set up to my local post office. So I went to pick it up, I think the day after I got here. I got my visa.
Right. But and it's nice because, like, you got there and, like, Sean's already been living there, so you don't have to, like, find a place to
Yeah.
live or, like, find, that kind of stuff. So did Sean, when he was going back over, did he have a place, like, set up before he got there? Like, how did the housing work for
So we're
him?
quite lucky because Sean's uncle lives here. He was born and raised here.
Right.
So we always have family nearby. They're about 10-minute drive away. So Sean lived with them
Right.
for I think about a month or two. And then he started
Okay.
looking for a flat for us kind of around the time that I would be coming over. He moved in
Right.
August and I moved in September. So he was just
Okay.
here for a month before me, but he had the whole place
Yes.
set up, which was really nice, but obviously a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
But
Yes. Yeah, a lot
on the
for
flip
him.
side, I packed up our whole flat in Halifax, which was also
Yeah.
really hard. So we
Fair.
both, a lot of grunt work.
Yeah, for sure. And it's nice because, like, you'd obviously lived there before, so you kinda know, like, Sean knows where he's gonna be working, like, what neighborhoods maybe that you, like or is, like, close to where his work is and, like, getting
Yeah.
around. Because I find that part, like, really stresses me out. It's like, where what area and, like, where would
Oh
you
my
go?
gosh, totally. That is
Yeah.
something I kind of, resented living where we live now back in 2017 just because we're zone
Right,
6, so we're past Surrey and London. I think our county is technically
right,
Surrey, but I say I'm in
right,
London because 'cause I'm within the commuter belt. Yes.
right. Fair.
Right.
Yeah.
I I'm so comfortable being in house like, when you're born and raised in a spot, you know it like the back of your hand, and even Orlando, I lived there, but I had grown up visiting there all the time, so I'm so comfortable being there. But the last time that we had moved here, I kind of hated it, like, just where we were living specifically because I was like, "I don't know where
Right.
anything is. I'm not in the city.
Mhm.
What is this?" But back, I appreciate it so much more because I know where everything is and what I'm doing, the good grocery stores, the train routes and all that, so
Yeah. Yeah. Makes it, like, just slightly less
yeah.
overwhelming to, like, up your entire life and move.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, obviously, all of this visa stuff isn't cheap. So, maybe enlighten the people on the fees that they might encounter out
Yes, I
there.
have the fees outlined. I did a little,
Okay.
TikTok video of the fees as well because I think that's very relevant question. Um,
Yeah.
okay, so the first fee is the IHS fee, so that is paying for your healthcare. You have to pay for
Okay.
your healthcare for the whole time you plan on living here on your visa, which is a lot of money. That's actually a big
Right.
reason why we've just done a 2-year visa. Typically, Sean's visa would be 5 years, but we did 2. We can always extend. It's not a problem. Because we're like, we
Right.
can't pay 5 years of healthcare. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, so that the IHS fee is about $800 per year. It's Canadian dollars. I've converted all the fees to Canadian dollars. Oddly, you pay them
Okay.
in American dollars. Don't ask me why,
Of
because
Oh,
course you
I'm
do.
applying from Canada and I'm on the UK government website. It's fine. Okay, so it's
okay.
800 Canadian dollars per year. So we spent $1,600 on our healthcare for 2 years, which is great. It's very similar to
Right.
Canada. We can go to the hospital, we can go to the doctor, just for basic checkups. You don't have to pay for anything. There is a flat rate fee
Yeah.
here for prescriptions, which is a bit different than at home. I feel like at home,
Yeah.
prescriptions can be quite costly. And of course, there are costly
Mhm.
prescriptions here as well, but a lot of
Right.
them will just be that base price. The last time we lived here, it was about
Right.
like £8.50 for prescriptions. I'm sure
Right.
it's more now. I haven't gotten a prescription yet, but of course, everything's more now.
Everything is.
So no
Yeah.
surprise there. The visa fee specifically was $1,100, but just for the application. Also important to note that all of these fees are non-refundable if you don't get your visa.
Right.
Gamble.
Of course not.
That was hands on
Yeah.
to the stress of it all.
Ah,
And then the next fee would be your biometrics appointment, which is the interview I was talking about previously.
right.
So you do have to pay for that interview and flights and hotel as you have to travel for it. The,
Right, of course.
the biometrics appointment was $150, which is kind of crazy for an interview, but that's fine. We'll move on from that. And those are actually all of the fees, but I had a couple more fees, which I think are more unique to my case. I did pay for priority because I miss my husband. I wanted to I wanted to
Yeah,
find out. So I paid
yeah,
$450 for priority. And it was one of those things where I walked in and I wasn't planning on doing it because dependent partner visas, they would never allow you to purchase priority. And I went in there and I inquired about it. And she said, no, we don't do that. And a lady helping me kind of went away and asked her colleague. And she said, oh, last week we actually started allowing you. And I was like, well, if that's not a
Nice.
sign, I don't know what is. Like,
yeah. Pick take my money. Yeah.
yeah. Didn't find out in the time I was supposed to, but that's fine. I'll forgive them.
Yeah.
And then randomly, a couple weeks after my biometrics appointment, I got an email saying that I had a top up payment that was due. I still have not investigated that, and actually looking over the notes for this episode, I was like, "I need to contact them because totally forgot
Yeah.
about this." But they emailed me saying I owed another $550, and I don't know why. So, right?
Yeah,
But
look into that.
Yeah, definitely look
yeah,
into that, and hopefully that's not a typical thing for people to have to
no, and
experience.
that's a lot of extra money, right? When you're already paying thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
honestly, at that point, I had gotten an email saying that my case was not straightforward, which is why it took longer for me to find out.
Right.
And so when I got that email saying I owed money, I was like, pay it. I'm not even gonna ask questions. Like, I just want to find out. I don't want this to hinder. I'll investigate later. Forgot about it. Like, I
We're so glad we
remembered.
could remind you.
Yeah. Look, no,
Well, that's a really good overview, and I think that's a big part of it, I'm sure. Obviously, everyone's circumstance is different why they would be going.
Yeah.
So, that's individual to you, but I'm sure there are other people in your situation. But it's even good just to have a broad overview of what you paid so people can understand what they could be
yeah.
paying, essentially.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
And the amount of money that they require you to have in your account as well, you would have to provide proof of your account. Like I said, we didn't have to do that this time around, but for the working holiday visa, I believe I had to have about like plus or minus a bit $3,500 in my account. And
Okay.
Right.
like I said, I do think it's more now, especially because now we're on actual working visas. So I do think that we would need more, but I don't know the figure, but it is a few $1,000s. So
Worth Yeah, no, worth it in my opinion for such an amazing experience. But I do have to ask, I have a packing problem. So I do have to ask about your actual moving because you did mention packing up your own apartment here. So How much stuff did you take with you? How did you figure that part out?
Uh, it is not for the faint of heart. Okay. I've done this probably 4 times in my life, moving around, and it doesn't get any easier. But I narrowed it down. I had 2 check bags and 1 carry-on suitcase, and then a
Wow.
personal item. I also do have a cardboard box full of things in my dad's basement. Like a couple nice, like a winter coat, my Uggs, some sentimental things I'm
Right.
keeping. So he'll send that over piece by piece. But that is all I brought.
Nice. Did you sell your furniture like here? You sold everything else kind of
Yeah, we
thing?
sold a lot of our things. It was actually quite um lucky the situation I was in because I was home when the manager of my building was showing my flat. And it was like a cute little young
Mhm.
couple moving out for the first time on their own. And so I was like, "Oh, do you need a sofa or or
You can have all that you see here.
all the
Yeah.
things you want?" So they actually ended up buying our bar stools, our sofa, and our carpet. So I did, or our rug, I should say.
Nice.
I was thinking that would be good, but then the manager said you need to have it out for the inspection. So these poor kids had to come with their friend's truck and lug it all out in a rainstorm just to
Oh,
lug it back.
that's sweet of you.
I
That
know,
sucks.
oh, I felt so bad. But
Yeah. It sounded
But
like a
lucky for
good
anyways, it
you.
was lucky for me. I felt bad for them, but it was like lucky for me.
Yeah. I guess,
Ac
like, all the, like, electronic stuff, you would need UK plug stuff, so it's not like you're dragging a bunch of, like, electronics
Yeah,
over.
sadly, to my husband's dismay, he had to gift his PS4 to his brother. He throw it
Oh,
back.
no.
Oh, I'm sure his brother
Yeah,
hated
he
that.
he
Yeah.
he definitely did. He resents him for it, I think. But yeah, well, we need all the converters,
Oh,
but, they don't the best.
yeah.
I won't lie. I think, for my electronics, I need to just bite the bullet and go to the store and buy a UK plug because the amount of
Yeah.
times I have to plug my iPad in before it actually starts charging is ridiculous.
Oh,
Um,
no.
yeah, that would get
Yeah,
old.
quickly.
What? Yeah. So if there's one thing maybe you could tell people before they start this process or maybe even after they land in their new country, what would your advice be or your biggest piece of advice to help them with their expectations?
Um, my advice would be related to banking because this is something I had a lot of trouble with the first time I moved here. I would
Right.
advise you to open a bank account that has a branch in your city or country and the country you're moving to. So you can
Okay.
transfer your money
Yeah.
because when I moved here in 2017, I did not have, I am with RBC at home and we don't have that here. So I had
Right.
the problem of trying to find a job without a bank account. Um, But I
Mm.
couldn't yeah, I couldn't get a job without a bank account, but I couldn't get a bank account without proof of income. I'd never lived in the country
Great.
before. Uh, it was a very weird situation. Luckily, I stumbled upon a cafe. I only worked there for a little while, but they kind of, you know, they hired me without a bank, and then I was able to, you know, kind of do it in a roundabout way, but it was extremely stressful. I won't lie.
Wow.
And it was
That's something that I wouldn't have thought of at all. Like, I feel like I'm like,
No.
"Oh, walk into a bank and open an account," but
No,
no.
you need a job. Or it's like, "Oh, but I can't get a job without a bank account. I can't get a phone without a bank account. What am I supposed to do?"
Right. Round and round you go, it sounds like. So this time around, what did you do?
For banking. So I
Yeah.
actually still had the bank account I had in 2017. It's with
Okay.
HSBC. So if you're in Canada and you're moving to England, open up an HSBC account because that'll help you in
Gotcha.
the long run.
Beautiful.
So I just reopened my account. I still had 25 pounds in there. I was rolling it. But I
Nice.
was, oh my goodness. It is, yeah, wholeheartedly look into finances and get familiar with that whole situation because at the branch when I was opening up or reopening my account a couple of months ago, he's like, "Oh, what a shame. You should have put it in this type of account and you would have a few £1,000 instead of because you would have accumulated."
You're
I
like,
was
"Great.
23 and
Good
I
to know
left. Like,
now."
of course, I'm not gonna think about that, you know what I mean? But
No. Yeah,
silly, silly.
yeah.
Thanks for the late advice though,
Yeah.
sir.
They keep telling me about all the money I could have, but don't have.
Right. I love that. I love that. So I guess a question I would have now that you're there, I know it's not been too long, but you are there, and of course you were there before. So tell us what you're sort of loving most about being in your new home country.
Everything. Oh my gosh. I know it's such a and it's just a lame answer, but I mean, we wanted to come back for a reason. I just feel like when you know you love a place, you just love everything about it.
Here.
Um, and the lifestyle is a huge thing. The whole work-life balance. People really value their holidays, which is an amazing
Yeah.
thing. I swear at work, there's always 2 people. It's crazy. Like, people are always, booking their trips to Prague for the weekend
Yeah.
or wherever they're going.
'Cause you can do that
Yeah,
from there.
yeah. Yeah,
Unlike
that's really
Canada.
nice. So,
Yeah.
Or plus Spain for the
travel yeah,
weekend.
easy
Yeah.
travel is amazing. Also, just so much to do. And I know Nova Scotia has so much to do, but I think it just depends on who you are and your personality and what you value. Nova
Sure.
Scotia is a lot of outdoor activities, which is great. But that's not for me. I'm an indoor gal. I love to go to a museum. One of the 1,000 museums that we have in London.
Mhm. And are free.
Yeah,
So, like
free or very cheap, or if it's expensive, you
yeah.
can just get, like, a subscription of some sort, like, there's always some way to save money on those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Um, Honestly, yeah, that's basically it, just a lifestyle change.
Yeah.
It's much more relaxed, the cost of living is a lot less, which you wouldn't expect. Rent is obviously not
Mhm.
included in it because rent is ridiculous, but yeah,
Everywhere.
everywhere, but, like, your phone bill, your utilities, your groceries, it's all less. So
Mhm.
that
Yeah. Every time I've been to the UK, I've been like, groceries are so cheap. Like, it's ridiculous. Even when you do the
and
conversion of the currency conversion, you're like, "Why is this so much
yeah,
cheaper here?" Like,
yeah,
maddening.
it's all the farms.
I guess, yeah. Is there anything or what's, like, the biggest thing you miss about Canada now that you've been gone for a bit? Outside of, family and friends and loved ones,
Oh, you knew I
obviously.
was gonna say that?
I mean, that's the obvious
I
one,
know it
right?
is.
You miss
I
your
know it
your
is.
you miss your
Okay,
people.
foregoing all that, humans and animals, of
Yeah.
course. Uh, I would say comfortability. I mean, I was born and raised there. It's nice
Yeah.
knowing your way around and just being somewhere you've always been, basically. Also, the people in a sense of kindness and and friendliness.
Right.
When you're walking around, someone will say hi to you when you're walking by. It does not happen in
Yeah.
London. If you were to say hi to someone, they'd be like, uh,
Why are you
yeah,
talking to
get out of
me?
my
Yeah.
face. I miss that for sure. I miss the food as well. Um, a lot of
Interesting.
food
Yeah.
that we don't have here. Get some lobster, like less
Mhm.
expensive lobster, and just the seafood in general. Like, I mean, we both know
Right.
Halifax. Like, if I want oysters, I have about a million places I want to go to.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
beautiful. Nova Scotia is so beautiful, and
It
I didn't appreciate it until I moved away the first time. And I mean, when you leave a place, you really come to appreciate it, which is a really sad fact.
It is. No, it's true though. I and all the things you mentioned, I'm sure exactly sound like the things that I honestly would miss as well. I would love living abroad, but I do think those would be things that I would miss for sure, of course, as well as the humans and animals, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
I guess to finish things off, then, a good way to summarize this is there anything you wish you would have known that someone would have told you about this process before you started?
I honestly wish that I had just known somebody that has gone through it. Because
Mm.
Right.
I was so stressed the whole time. I That's all I thought about was the process and getting over here. Um, I feel like I did fully enjoy my last summer at home because I was just so focused on this application. And it is a
Yeah.
huge gamble, you saved all this money to kind of fulfill a dream that you've had, and it's not guaranteed. But
Yeah.
I wish I had just known someone to kind of talk me off that ledge. But I'm lucky because my husband was being really nice about it, and my mom stayed with me for a lot of the summer to spend time with me before I left, and she was like, "Gonna be fine, why would you not get it?" Which is so true,
Right.
like, why like, I'm not a criminal. I have what I need,
Right.
it's gonna be fine, but I think that that is the a big takeaway for me, definitely, is just be patient, which is
Mhm.
valuable.
Yeah. And I think that, like, that's exactly why I wanted to bring you on to have you kind of share your experience, just because a lot of people don't know anyone who's done anything like this. And so if they're thinking about it, they're like, I don't even know where
Mhm.
to start. And something that I just want to mention, like, if you're listening to this and you're under 30 years old and you want to go somewhere, like, look for like a youth mobility visa, like wherever you want to go, because those are options that are out there, and like you said, when you did it, like, you found out really quickly, and it's a lot more, it's an option for
Yeah.
people, and I think that people don't realize it, and, now that I am over 30, I'm like, "Why didn't I do
You
this
know, some
before?"
countries have until you're 35.
Ah, I got a year and a half left then.
But you can apply the day before your birthday. So if you're
Yeah.
29 and
Ah,
11 months, look it.
get on there.
Apply.
Honestly, and that's something that I wish my husband and I would have done this before we bought a house and, like, got animals and, like, really, quote, unquote, "settled down," right? Like, I think that sometimes people are in a rush to do, the college, dating, marriage, house kind of pipeline, that they don't think that there are other actual options out there and that you can do them. So, Google it and go do something fun.
Do it for our sake now that we're over the age of being able to. So
Yeah.
please live our dreams. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Jamie. I think this will be really helpful for a lot of people. And even if someone's not considering it, at least at the very least, very interesting. So we really appreciate your time. Of course, as our listeners know, you can follow the Travel Mug Podcast on Instagram and Facebook and threads at Travel Mug Podcast or our website, travelmugpodcast.com. You can support the show through Buy Us a Coffee. Link is in the show notes and leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. I'm sure on our social media for the couple of weeks that Jamie's episode is out. Hopefully, we'll get some great photos of our new locale that we can share with you. So stay tuned for those. And until next time, thank you so much as always for your support. Bye.